Hello and welcome to the Vault of the Wardens on Heroic difficulty. My name is Vaylock and let's get started. So at the beginning of the dungeon here you will have a couple of trash packs, pretty small, there's only two in this group. They don't do a whole lot of special things. They will transform into their metamorphosis state and they will do increased damage, but other than that there's not really too much to worry about. In the next group here you can just use some AoE stuns and it'll help out the healer a lot and it'll make it easier for the tank to control. The damage isn't really that bad when it comes to AoE, it's more focused on the tank, so active mitigation and single target healing should carry you through most of it. This is like a little mini boss here you'll find, and she will just do like a pulsing AoE that does fire damage. She will also just put some fire patches on the floor. Other than that she will just transform into metamorphosis herself and just deal increased damage. Nothing really to worry about, just have to group up for the healing and it's pretty manageable. Once we move on here to the next trash pack, it's just a pretty large group we pulled here. Once again we just use some AoE stuns just to manage it easier, and that really allows you to pull more than you should otherwise be able to. As we move on here, it's got a Naga in this group here, and he will do like a deafening scream. This is like a frontal cone silence, so make sure you have it faced away from the group so you don't get your casters or your healers silenced. This does also silence the tanks, so they may not be able to use some of their abilities, such as taunt, for example, if that is affected by silence. I can't quite remember. But it's pretty easily managed. We just have to drink up here because it is quite mana consuming on this part of trash. As we come into the first boss's room here, you'll just have one final trash pack with a Naga, who will also silence to keep him faced away. And the first boss here is Tirathon Saltharil. He will just have a few abilities. He has one called Swoop, where he will leap at a location and immediately after cast Furious Blast, which just does some AoE damage to everybody. He will also do an ability called Dark Strikes. This will give him an 8-second buff that will empower his auto attacks, so that if he attacks a tank that doesn't have active mitigation on him, he will gain a damage absorb shield. So what the tanks want to do is just try and keep their active mitigation up for those 8 seconds as much as possible to prevent the boss from getting a shield. He will also do a Fell Mortar, which is just a cast which you cannot interrupt, it'll just put some fire on the ground. And then at 50% he will choose one of two specs, and he will change either into Vengeance, which is like a Demon Hunter tanking spec, or Havoc, which is the Demon Hunter DPS spec. In our case he chose Vengeance, which is a tanking spec, so he takes 25% reduced damage. He will no longer do Furious Blast, but he will continue to use the Fell Mortar ability. He will also throw out these glaives who will damage anybody they hit, and these glaives will be linked together by the big green fell chain which you can see on the screen. If you come into contact with that fell chain you will take quite a chunk of damage. Other than that he may also choose the Havoc DPS spec, which just gives him a 25% damage increase, and that's he will do then an Eye Beam which will channel and follow players, and he will also use an Immolation Aura that just deals fire damage every 5 seconds. The spec he chooses is set for the week, so if he chooses tank spec he will be that for the whole week, and then the next week he'll be DPS, and then he'll kind of rotate them out. But that's pretty much it. He isn't too difficult. We just pop Bloodlust on him because the timer allows for it, because the cooldown will be ready again for the end boss. As we move on here past him, you'll have some imps and an imp mother. You just need to not stand in the poison on the floor there and just AoE the imps down and just kill off the imp mother. She has quite a lot of health, but she isn't really too difficult if you just keep avoiding the poison on the floor there, or fire or whatever it is. Once she's dead the door will open and you'll be able to move on here. You'll have an elevator. This elevator will take you down through the prison, because it's the Vault of the Wardens, which is a prison. And once you get down here you will find the second boss right away. His name is Inquisitor Tormentorum. He doesn't do a whole lot by himself. He will just channel an ability called Sap Soul. This is an interruptible channel, and if he channels it for the full duration he will debuff everybody, which makes your next ability have a 15-second increased cooldown. So just interrupt this and it's pretty much a non-mechanic at that point. He will also summon these tormenting orbs throughout the fight. These orbs will occasionally cast a stir, Inquisitive Stir, and you will see a line, like a blue line between the orb and every player in the group. And what you need to do is face the orb before the cast finishes, and if you don't then you will get disorientated for a few seconds. So you can see I'm facing towards the orb when I get that line on me. Other than that you can just ignore them. There will be several up at once, but you only really get 1 to 2 casting on you at once. The boss's main ability is that there are 4 prison cell blocks around the room here. He will go and open them randomly, and each of them contains a different set of adds. So one cell block is cell 33468. It contains a Felguard Annihilator, which will constantly drop threat and charge random players, stunning them, so the tank needs to keep them under control. It will also contain a Shadow Moon Technician, which throws dynamite and puts mines on the floor, and will also silence random casters. And it'll also include a Shadow Moon Warlock, which will channel other enemies, increasing their size and damage. Cell block 306810, which you can open, has a Faceless Voidcaster that will do a Shadow Crash with a Void Zone, and there will also be a Void Touch Juggernaut, which has a Frontal Clone Cleave and AoE Fear. And there finally will be a Deranged Mind Flare that just spams Mind Blast that damages the target and everybody within 10 yards, so let's spread out and kill that one. Cell block 32024 is probably the easiest of the lot. It spawns Lingering Corruption, which is just a add that will apply a debuff to a random player when they die. This debuff will cause an explosion around that player, and they will take damage along with everybody within 8 yards. So just move out if you have the debuff. And the final cell block will have a Mogushan Secret Keeper that will regularly cast Flesh to Stone, which will apply stacking slow. If it reaches 10 stacks, you will all be slow, or you'll all be stunned for a few seconds. And also with that group is a enormous Stone Quillen, which will just do high tank damage with the Monstrous Bite. So pretty simple fight if you can just control the adds. We got a pretty easy combination here, but it may vary for you depending on what adds the boss releases. Now once he's dead, you can move on with the trash. You just have like a little mini boss here, Dreadlord. He just doesn't really do a whole lot. Pretty easy to kill, and you can immediately then move on to the third boss here, which is Ashgolm. This boss is a giant fire elemental. He's currently frozen, but once you engage the fight, he will unfreeze. As you can imagine, there's a lot of fire in this fight. He will throw down molten lava at the feet of players, and it will summon a volcano. This volcano will deal damage to nearby players, and it will also occasionally spawn adds, which are called embers. These embers will just spam spell casts at a random target, dealing damage. You will need to kill these adds for a mechanic we'll talk about in just a moment. The boss will also have a Smouldering Aura, which means everyone takes damage every 3 seconds, but it's not a large amount, it's only 40,000. So you can heal through it pretty easily. The boss will cast Fissure. This just spawns a line of lava in front and behind him. This lava will move around the area, and players can stand in this lava to absorb it. So the lava will despawn, but you will get a pretty strong dot on you if you do. If the adds actually touch the lava, they will then cast Detonate and explode, dealing quite a chunk of damage to everybody. So that's why you want to kill the adds, so that they don't have a chance to detonate from the lava. Other than that, he will just cast Lava Wreath. This will just put lava at the location of a player, and it'll kind of move out in a ring. So you just need to keep an eye out on that so you don't stand in it. Other than that, it's just mostly the fight's about dodging lava. If the fire gets too much, you can click on what's called countermeasures. There's a statue on the outside of the room. There is 3 of them in total, I think, but you can only use it once throughout the entire encounter. Once you click on it, all of the fire will despawn. The boss and all of the adds will then be stunned for a few seconds and take double damage. So use this opportunity to either kill off the adds really quickly or finish off the boss. Once he's dead, you can move up, and there's no trash between him and the next boss. The next boss is Glazer. He's like a giant Durmu. And once you pull Glazer, he will do an ability called Pulse, which just sends out these energy pulses, and they will shoot outwards from the boss. And if they don't hit any players, they will go out to the edge of the room and then bounce back into the encounter area. If they do hit a player, they will split into 2 of them, but they can also hit the boss. If they hit the boss, then it'll just despawn and deal damage to the boss. He will also do a Lingering Gaze, which just will deal damage to a random player and spawn a Void Zone. But the main mechanic of this fight is something called Focus. The boss will focus a laser beam, like an energy beam, and it'll slowly chase a random player. This player just needs to move this beam into one of the statues here, which is like a mirror, and once the boss's laser beam hits one of these mirrors, it will stop and it'll constantly channel at that mirror. And then what you need to do is you need to click on the statues to rotate them to redirect the beam into the back of the boss, and that will cancel the ability then, and you can continue as normal. While this is active, the boss is basically immune to damage, so that's all you can really focus on. The longer it takes to get out of this phase, the more damage you will take. There will be a ticking damage on the rate from radiation. The longer the phase goes on, the more damage you'll take. So the best you can do is try and end it pretty quickly so you don't get overwhelmed by the radiation damage. But other than that, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simplest boss in the dungeon. Moving on, you'll find just some more trash. You've got like a little mini boss here. He will do these like fire zones on the floor, and he will also channel like a prism on a player, which will just root them in place and deal some damage. Other than that though, it's pretty easy to heal through, so it's nothing much to worry about. Once he's dead, you will then go down on an elevator, and we totally did not die to this elevator, which is why it's not in the video, but it is another elevator boss, just so you know, so watch out for that if you're going down it. Once you get down here, you will go into a cave, and there is a light source that you can get a player to click on, preferably the tank, and this light source will be basically the only light you have in this entire cave because it's pitch black. Once you get through the cave, you just go through and killing trash, and you will come to this door. Then you just have to kill like a little mini boss, and once you come through this door, the light source will be removed from your head as you approach the final boss. Now the final boss is Cordana Felsong. Before you engage, you just have to go up and grab the light source at the back of the room there. It's the light of a loon, and preferably once again your tank can do it because it's just easier that way to follow your tank. Now when you engage the boss, she will just have a couple of abilities. First of all, she will do like a knockdown kick on the tank, knocking them down, and will immediately follow it up with a knockback kick. After that, she will do what's called Deepening Shadows. Deepening Shadows will spawn like a void zone on the floor under a random player. This will continue to get bigger, but the person with the light of a loon, which in this case would be the tank, can just walk over to the void zone and it will start to decay, and it'll slowly decrease in size until it disappears completely. She'll also do a detonating moonglaive, which just throws out a moonglaive at a direction. If it hits anybody, it'll explode, dealing high damage to anybody within 10 yards, so keep an eye out for that. She'll also summon a Avatar of Vengeance ad. This is just a ad that will attack random people. It can't be seen or targeted until you reveal it with the light, so just make sure you have your player with the light of a loon to deal with that. Other than that, the boss will do what's a shadow step. She will go into stealth, and she will start throwing out these felglyphs, and your person with the light of a loon will just need to go where the felglyphs are coming from to reveal the boss and bring her out of stealth again. And finally, she will do what's called Creeping Doom, where she will summon like a legion of spirits, which will just march across the platform. There will be a gap in it. You will briefly see where the gap is when they spawn, but then they will go into stealth, and they won't be seen again until they get close enough to the person with the light of a loon to reveal them. So you just need to keep an eye out for that, find the gap, and then get into the location between the spirits to avoid the damage. If you do get hit by it, they will do quite a lot of damage to you and just knock you up. It is worth mentioning that the person who has the light of a loon, sometimes the boss will knock it off you, so you will need to go and pick it up again, but you can do that by clicking on it. And I should probably point out that it is possible to fall off the platform here, but if you do, you will just fall off, and then you'll get caught and then thrown back up again. But that's pretty much it for the final boss. It's pretty, sounds like a lot, but it boils down to just keeping around the person with the light of a loon, kill ads, dodge, the usual stuff, and find the gap in the spirits. And once you do with that, she should die pretty quickly. So that is the Vault of Wardens on heroic difficulties, probably the best dungeon in Legion, so it's something good to look forward to. I hope this video helped, and if you want to see more, feel free to subscribe, and thank you for watching.